Okay, the next series of movements we're going to talk about in the program are going to be our deadlifts or our pickups or our hinge patterns. And this is all more or less describing the same thing, which is the skills, the muscles, the movement patterns that we use to pick up heavy objects, and then how we can modify those so that they work for you. I would say that of all the movements, I think that hinging and building up the strength, confidence, and stability to pick up heavy objects is probably one of the most important aspects of getting into resistance training. Not just because of the bone density that you're going to build, not just because of the muscle density and the muscle growth that you're going to see, but just because picking up objects is very useful. And if you can build up that confidence to interact with heavy objects around you, it's really going to open up a lot of options, and it's just going to help you feel a little bit more autonomous. It's going to increase your sense of agency. Um, and also, you might find that you get to really enjoy picking up heavy objects. In my experience, working with all different kinds of populations, once people can get confident in picking up heavy objects, they sort of get the bug and they find that is just a really empowering thing to do. So, one of the things I want to talk about really quick is um, learning how to hinge is very important. So we've gone ahead and shot a separate video on hinging. And just so you know what I'm talking about, hinging is really just getting comfortable pushing your bum back while maintaining a nice stable spine without going into flexion, without going into too much extension, and then using that position to pick up objects. It's a little bit different from squatting in that it's about moving your hips back and forth as opposed to bending only in your knees. So don't worry about it for right now, but just make sure you watch that video in case I reference some of the hinge progressions. Okay, so um, deadlifts, other hinging pickup patterns, they're great for strengthening the posterior chain. They're really good for improving range of motion over time. They really help with bone mineral density, especially in the lumbar spine and the neck of the femur. Through graded exposure, we can increase the ranges and resistance our bodies can safely employ while we're picking up heavy objects. Um, so when we're doing this, we want to think about progression both in terms of the range of motion and in resistance over time. So one of the things you really want to consider if you have been diagnosed with low bone mineral density, especially osteoporosis, is that when you're lifting, you really want to avoid spinal flexion. So rounding your lumbar spine when you're picking up heavy objects. Now, there's nothing wrong with lumbar flexion in general. In fact, I would probably argue that you want to maintain some activities where you do get into a little bit of spinal flexion because there's probably a beneficial stimulus there, but you don't want to overdo it. And you don't want to do it repetitively, especially under novel loads that you haven't experienced before. So be really conservative when you start to work on picking up objects, especially if they're so low that you're not sure if you can maintain that stable lumbar spine. So when you are looking at the different variations of pickups that you decide to do, be mindful of that. And if you have been diagnosed with osteopenia or osteoporosis, go ahead and speak with us, but then also talk with a health professional who knows about these sorts of things, just to check to make sure that there aren't any contraindications with some of the movements or the way you're performing them and your current level of capability. So that being said, in terms of the different variations that we have, we're going to provide lots of different options for picking things up. We're going to provide some banded options, which are not going to put much stress on your body. They're a nice introduction so you can kind of feel the movement as you learn how to hinge. Um, After that, we're going to go ahead and do some raised pickups using kettlebells or other objects so you don't have to get quite so low, ensuring that we can find nice positions as we're doing it. After we do that, we're also going to introduce some really much heavier pickups using sandbags. And if this movement is a good match for you, this will probably be your long-term option, doing the sandbag pickups and the sandbag deadlifts. For all the reasons that I've stated in the other videos, sandbags are a really good tool that help you control your progression, and they ensure that you're always going to have the right level of stimulation as you're continuing on your strength training journey. Because you will get to a point eventually where you're going to run out of appropriate heavy objects around you. And remember, the key to progress is this progressive overload. One of the other variations we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about what's often called a Romanian deadlift variation, where you don't bend your knees and you really are just focusing on moving your hips back and forth. Um, and this is a good option if you decide to do some sort of raised deadlift off the ground because you really want to avoid a low position at this current point in time. So we'll talk about how we can set those up as well.